everyone. Welcome to Here We Are, Brattleboro's community talk show. I'm Wendy O'Connell, and today we are here with Jared Flynn. Jared is a master dry stone waller. He's one of the founders of the Stone Trust here in Dummerston at Scott Farm, and he's going to talk to us about how he got where he has gotten with dry stone walling as a vocation. And we're glad to have you on.
Great, Wendy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah, hi, everyone.
In our TV viewing land and
right.
YouTube viewing land as well. So, Jared, you are a fourth or fifth generation local Vermonter. It's a long time for a family to be here.
It is, yeah. Growing up in the area, all four of my grandparents living in Brattleboro, from Myrtle Street and West Street. My stomping grounds really was Western Avenue, traveling back and forth between my grandparents' house, mostly to Avenue Grocery for candy, and then over to Holton Home and down over to West Street.
It's nice to know Avenue is still there, right?
Really,
Grocery.
right?
Yeah. Were you there before 91 came?
No,
you were after?
Definitely not. No,
that made a change.
Judge Oaks, the former Judge Oaks, tells us a great story of when 91 was in. Before it was open, he had the chance to drive on it.
Oh, that's
which
exciting.
Must have been just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's very cool. That changed a lot of things in town.
It sure did. It sure did.
So after you got out of school, you were working in a nursery, in a horticulture nursery, right?
Yeah, I was working for Bruce Belleville of Meeting House Gardens over in North Hinsdale, right down the road from where I lived, and wonderful job, wonderful person, digging and dividing perennials all day. Seasonal work. I've always done seasonal work. So from the perennials, I got into a little bit of garden design, which got into walling. And then once I found once the stones found me, I was pretty much committed to that. Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think that so many of us have tried to make our own little stone walls in our gardens, and or traveled through the woods and seen the old stone walls that have either fallen down or were boundaries, or just piles that the farmers threw up, to get out of the way. But I think we all have a relationship with those stone walls, whether we know it or not.
Sure. Yeah, I think anywhere that there's dry stone as a natural resource around the world, it's been put to use. It's a very reliable building material for bridge abutments and foundations, and even just boundary walls, and just for people even just to play with. Particularly in Vermont, we're very blessed with many different types of stone. Here in the Connecticut River Valley, we have tons of glacial till. As you moved west over towards Manchester, you have the white marble, and just north of that you have the slate, and then northeast of that you have Berry, where all the granite comes from. So there is quite an assortment of rocks, even just in our state.
That's a lot of diversity, isn't it?
It is. It is. You don't
that.
see that very many other places
really?
in the world. Yeah.
I see your pathway, so to speak, to stone walls, and you started building them on your own for jobs that you would go on site for and that kind of thing.
Yeah, geez, back then it was all trial and error. There was no internet really, and very few books to learn the craft. So I was doing lots of rebuilds, so taking down existing walls and putting them back, and learning what the wallers before me had done. And particularly when walls had failed, I was identifying why they had failed and why other places were more structural, and really focusing on the more structural elements of the wall. And then, a good friend, Dan Snow, invited me to a workshop that he was hosting, and I had the aha moment where I figured out that I had lots to learn.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was that? Can you say, was it really a moment when you realized something?
It was. Dry stone walling is very basic construction, and we always say a couple of the basic rules to dry stone construction are laying the stone lengthwise in, like you would firewood. So just like stacking firewood, you pick up a stone up and you lay it length into the wall. I was not doing that. I was putting the long face out on the wall, which is not as structural. And I was also just stacking rocks on top of rocks. And what you're supposed to do is more of a 1-on-2, 2-on-1 method, kind of like when you're stacking Legos. So even with just learning those two basic principles, my walls got so much better.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be taken from 2-foot-high garden wall and then up into much more larger construction, high retaining walls, bridge abutments, barn foundations. Yeah, more structural elements.
So those basics hold, no matter what size the structure.
They do, they do. Up hundreds of feet. I think one of the largest walls, not that I've worked on, but seen, is over 40 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
For dry stone wall.
For dry stone wall. Yeah.
We didn't do this at the beginning, but because we kind of assumed that there's so many dry stone walls in the area that people actually know what that means. But if you could just give us a quick definition.
Oh, sure. Dry stone wall construction is the principle of stacking rocks on top of rocks using gravity and friction. Gravity's happening all the time, and friction you can maximize by placing the stones lengthwise in and having them having them touch more. And also you have to remember. Every time you place a rock in the wall, it's that rock's life goal to get back into the earth or back on the ground, and that keeps the wall really honest. So I'm constantly thinking of the rocks as I'm putting in the wall. I'm like, you're going to be there for a very long time with the methods that I've learned.
Yeah, it makes me think of what it's like to be a dry stone waller, because you spend a lot of time alone actually building, right? Yeah. Yeah. What's that like for you?
It's awesome. It's awesome. A very small percentage of the walling is putting square footage on the face. So that's why a lot of wallers tend to work by themselves, because you don't want to give up that opportunity to build face square footage. It's something like 17% of the time that you build a wall is on the face, and then the rest of it's in the back. It's the harvesting and sourcing of the material. It's getting the material to the site. It's putting up batter frames and string lines and doing a design to have the wall fit into the landscape and the cleanup. So most wallers tend to work by themselves because they really they don't want to share the most fun part.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
I was thinking as you were talking, I was thinking it's because they really need to focus, and be one with the rock and that kind of thing.
No, you want it all to yourself. It's so much fun. Yeah,
that's so great.
Yeah, and it becomes you get very proficient at it. Like, it really becomes like stacking firewood. Like, you pick a rock up and you put it on. You pick a rock up and you put it on. Yeah.
And so, is it difficult to collaborate when you're working with someone else?
Oh, geez, no, not at all. Especially with the certification process that I'm involved with, that comes out of Great Britain. It's the Dry Stone Walling Association of Great Britain, which is the world standard for dry stone construction. So they created a curriculum that once you learn it, like I've walled with other wallers that we don't even speak the same language, but we know the same rules. So as we're building, the walls look exactly the same. It's like form follows function, so you really don't even have to communicate with other wallers as you're walling.
And you've had that experience?
I have, yeah. So that certification process is a 4-tier certification process from beginner to master. And I've struggled my way through each level. Yeah.
Has it been a struggle?
Absolutely. Yeah. Even like beginners struggle with the beginner test, and masters struggle with their master's test.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really special, and it's really nice as a instructor and teacher of the craft. That it's not my way. It's the way that was. Like, we're just the messengers of the information that comes out of Great Britain that has been proven over 5,000 years old. So they've been using this same method since then.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
so crazy.
It is, yeah.
So does that kind of information really pique your interest in history and looking back at stone walls and just seeing how cultures arise and how they're still using the same methods, that commonality?
No, what I think is fascinating is that everywhere around the world that stone is a natural resource, they're using it, So
in some way.
I just love that,
Yeah.
I love that there's wallers everywhere,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I'm sure a lot of people are familiar that in the early 1800s, 90% of Vermont was clear cut of all the trees. It's hard to believe that,
It's
right?
hard to believe.
Hard to believe that now.
Yeah.
But all the trees were cut and cleared and stumped, and all of the walls that you see in the woods now were once a field. I just there must have been hard living back then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and windy. It must
Well,
have been
and windy.
Really windy.
Really, right,
Yeah,
right.
nothing to cut that wind.
Yeah.
So, so maybe at this point it'd be interesting to hear a little bit about the Stone Trust and how that arose.
Oh, sure.
How you came to that.
So the Stone Trust is a local non-for-profit at the Scott Farm up on Kipling Road in Dummerston. And it's a non-for-profit that we started in 2010, a group of wallers with a mission of preserving the art and craft of dry stone wall construction. So we do that in a variety of ways. We have the only dry stone walling indoor training center in the world. We're the only certification test site in North America. Wow. So we have people coming from California and Montana and Colorado. They fly into Hartford, they come up, they work on their certification, and then they go home. So continuing on Vermont's path of as I feel it's an education state.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're so fortunate to be not only have education but preservation in the Stone Trust mission. So with that, I think last year we had 400 participants come from all over North America and Canada, and they come and we created a series of a curriculum where you can come and take a one-day indoor workshop for anybody, from teenagers to seniors. It's a very approachable. It's a very controlled learning environment with beautiful glacial till rocks, which are nice and smooth and easily laid, to a 2-day outdoor workshop. And then you can also take a 2-day outdoor workshop on a cheek end or a wall head, which is a technical build to how you stop a wall, into high walling and step styles, and there's a whole flat work workshops, all at the Scott Farm, who, by the way, has been such a great host family for us. The connection between the Stone Trust and the Scott Farm and the Landmark Trust is really important, and we're lucky to have them have us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And can you say a little bit about the Landmark Trust, because that was sort of the first, right, in this lineup?
Yeah. So the Stone Trust was looking for a place to move and live publicly, where we could have walls on display for the public eye. Which, by the way, if you ever want to go see tons of dry stone wall, I think there's over 3,000 square feet of walls at the Scott Farm. It's open to the general public, and you can go there anytime you want and check it all out. But I was working for the Landmark Trust on one of their historic properties. The Landmark Trust is an organization that restores old historic properties, and then after they're restored, they rent them out as vacation rentals. Kind of like it's a living history, if you will, when you rent these houses. And because the Landmark Trust mission came out of Great Britain, it's the Landmark Trust Great Britain. They were interested in Rudyard Kipling's house, the author who wrote. What was it? The Jungle Book and
Books.
Captain Courageous.
Yep.
They were interested in preserving his house on Kipling Road.
Yes.
And that's what started the Landmark Trust USA in the early 90s. And I think it was it was the late 90s when I was working on one of their walls in front of their properties that was famous for the pilfering or permanently borrowing of stones.
Oh,
And so many stones were being taken from that wall that if we didn't restore it, it's costing the farm more and more every year. So that was a 900-foot section of wall that we restored along the road. And then once you restore a wall, if one rock goes missing off the top, you can see it. So that wall was luckily preserved and taken care of.
that was real preservation, in the moment preservation.
In the moment, yeah, and that was kind of like a deal where like we traded, our rental for the preservation of that wall, and we worked on it for like 4 years and
Wow.
12 workshops, and hundreds of people came out for that. It's a beautiful site.
It is a beautiful site. It's above Scott Farm on Dutton Farm. Right?
That's right. It's on Dutton Farm Road,
Right.
in front of the Dutton Farmhouse, which is one of their vacation rentals.
Yeah.
I highly recommend driving on that road,
Yeah.
Especially around Mother's Day coming up when Zeke Goodband's orchard is just in full bloom. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous. There's views of Mount Monadnock there. It was a lovely spot
It's
for
a
workshops.
beautiful site. It's a wonderful place for the Stone Trust.
Yeah.
It's a perfect marriage.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing about the Stone Trust at Scott Farm is you were talking about you do the workshops inside, a lot of the workshops inside.
Yes.
When it's open daily and people can go in there and look through, right, and see your walls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They can go in and turn on the light. There's tons of educational information up on poster boards that you can read. And you really get a fairly clear understanding of walling.
Yeah.
And then also in there and on the Stone Trust website, we have a map of local features, dry stone features, if you will. So like that Dutton Farms walls on there. The town pound that Dan Snow built in Dummerston Center is on there. Up at Walker Farm, Jack Manick, Elysian Hills Christmas tree farm. There's some 14-foot Karen Christmas trees.
Oh.
Gorgeous. Those are all on this map, all within just a couple miles of the Scott Farm. So we've really tried to branch out and get people out and exploring. It's not just preservation education through dry stone walling. It really offers economic diversity for the farm,
Right.
Where
Right.
not only are people coming and buying apples and produce from the farm market at the Scott Farm, but it allows them to stay out of their cars a little bit longer and explore the site. Dry stone walling is really funny. There's a huge misconception in the craft. Let me start there.
Yeah.
Where people think that you have to be a big burly guy to stack a wall,
Right,
and it's so wrong. We I think this is our third year hosting women-only workshops, and the women are the best wallers. Their attention to detail, like every single time after that workshop, the Stone Trust Center is like immaculate. Like all the stones are picked up, they're all on the wall. The walls look great.
It's that market, right?
It's such a difference from, and then we'll bring in just we call them professional enthusiasts that come in and take. The workshops that we teach are really funny. I like to describe it as they're like Tom Sawyer walls, where we built them one time and we incurred the expense of the installation of it. But now that it's there, these walls go up and down, some of them 50, 60, 70 times. And each time that's fulfilling our mission of education. And we keep making a little bit of money off it each time.
Yeah, I think you need to explain that a little bit, because I've had the experience of going past a couple of these walls, and they're all together. I go by another time, and there's a big section out, and then I found out that that's part of the learning process. You have people come in and rebuild in the middle.
Oh, sure. So we say it only takes one day to learn the ancient craft of dry stone walling, and the knowledge gained will last a lifetime. So the process is that people come and there's an existing wall there, and they take the wall apart and manage the material for its value, and then they put the wall back in a couple different forms, from foundations to the first lift, and then the second lift, and then the top.
Wow, in the middle of this already constructed wall.
Yeah,
it
yes, and it takes
challenging.
about it's an 8-hour workshop, and 90% of our participants learn the basic structural techniques to dry stone walling in 4 hours.
From the get-go.
From like people like coming out of a desk,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
they can, and which we get a lot of, you know, people that have spent no time outside. So I think that's what's fascinating.
That's cool,
I
yeah.
guess I'm fascinated by the people that we get and where they come from. And if you looked at our list, you know, we've had people come from Texas because they don't have rocks in Texas. Like they came here on vacation and they didn't even want to learn. They just wanted to be with the hundreds of thousands of rocks that we had.
Wow.
And they like, and I'm like, no, like here, put a rock on the wall. And they're like, no. They just wanted to sit there and be in the presence of the stones.
It's like going to the zoo, right?
It was kind of, you know, like, and they asked if they could take a rock. We said absolutely, you know,
That's
and they
cool.
like flew back to Texas.
Oh, that's funny.
It's hysterical.
Yeah, it
So
is.
all different types. And I think that's one of the our assets for dry stone walling is that we get the homeowners because they're trying to educate themselves on their own walls or hiring a contractor. We get the landscapers that are looking to diversify their portfolio and take on walling when the plants aren't growing, I
Right.
would guess. And we get professional wallers that are doing it as a full-time trade that do more construction, like the bridge abutments and the barn foundations. We have landscape designers because we are certified. Like you can come, if you're a landscape architect, you can come and get your continuing educational credits.
Oh, that's good to know.
So instead of going to Boston and listening to a bobblehead, you can get the same amount of credits by coming and taking a dry stone wall workshop. So and then artists, everyone it's so many different types of people are attending these workshops.
And they'll all be in one workshop together.
Side by
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah.
Each person is not responsible, but has a 4-foot workstation or stint, they call them. So every 4 feet, that's your section of wall. And you would take that section down and put it back in 7 hours fairly easily. Yep, come on by, come on by.
Oh, so people can come by and watch you guys?
Oh, sure, yeah, we open up the
cool.
windows, you know.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and we take questions. The highlight of it is at the end of the day, when in the morning you tell people that they're going to take this wall down, like a 40-foot section of wall, and put it back up, and they don't believe you, you
right,
know.
yeah.
And then at 3 o'clock when they're putting the tops on, everyone's lit up.
Oh, that.
You know, and that's when we're like, sign up for another workshop, you know, and they usually do,
Yeah.
believe it or not, you know, like,
yeah.
like come take a 2-day outdoor where it really expands the curriculum a little bit, and it's more time to practice.
Yeah. It must be very satisfying.
I think it's it's satisfying to see people
Yes.
believe in themselves
And
and
accomplish
that they
that
can build a
kind of
wall.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have people sending us photos after they take workshops of walls they built like at their homes.
Oh,
and
great.
Yeah. So it's
So
pretty,
yeah,
pretty fun.
it comes around. That's
Yeah.
You know, one thing I was thinking is looking through the array of master builders you have, and I would really encourage people to look at the Stone Trust website because it's beautiful, but it also has such an array of what the workshops are and the people involved, and photos. Really cool photos
You have
of
a
some
great
of the
photo gallery.
amazing photo gallery of so many great projects that are so interesting. And I'm so struck looking at those by the amount of creativity of the people who are making these. And it seems, I don't know if this is unusual, but some of the follies, some of the tents,
Right.
some of these structures that you're making are way beyond a stone wall.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think it's unusual to gather that kind of people together?
Definitely not. You know, just building 2-foot high retaining walls gets old pretty fast. You know, but that being said, everyone starts somewhere. You know, that was the bulk of my work in the beginning of my career 20 years ago, and you progress through your certification and your education, and you want to stretch the rules as much as you can to get into more artistic features, and everyone wants to do that. You know, that's where the passion lies.
that's
you
so
know?
great.
And you have to. Dry stone walling is very, very labor intensive, and if you don't have passion for the work, then the stones are really heavy. But as long as your passion is high, you're driven to get out there and produce as much as you possibly can
Yeah.
in a very short building season.
Yes.
Like I stopped sleeping a couple weeks ago as spring was approaching.
Yeah.
You know, just in anticipation of the excitement of getting to build all season. Yeah.
That's saying a lot.
And most wallers are that way, because if you don't like it, it kills you. You know, like it's really the rocks are very heavy. Yeah.
It's kind of a law of nature, right? It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your new project, which is the Retreat Tower.
Oh, yes.
Very
The
ex-
Retreat
this is
Tower
very
is
exciting.
awesome. Growing up in Brattleboro, we used to go up it all the time. And it's been closed for a long time.
Yeah.
And as I started doing my own personal research on the tower, I learned that when you search it, there's lots of fake news out there on the tower. And it really, and that's what really drove me to want to do something about it, because the people that built the tower were celebrating mental health services in the state of Vermont, and to have fake news out there about people jumping off of it, and that it's about to fall down, all not true. So I love the tower. I love the tower, and I've been really fortunate working with other locals like Stevens and Associates Engineering, who has been a great resource in helping me out. The retreat is also very interested in changing the stigma of the tower.
That's great,
to what it really was meant
Right.
for.
It's wonderful, you know, with the advent of bringing light to mental illness in general, to have this be sort of a little hallmark of that. And it's wonderful for you and for the retreat and for the community.
It's existing infrastructure in our community that that we're not taking advantage of right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So being just a short walk from downtown Brattleboro.
Everybody wants to climb up in there.
Oh, I know. Oh, the
Everybody
goal
does.
is it doesn't actually need that much work, but we want to bring it up to standards with railing and lighting, and then. There's no real clear path yet, and we're kind of like just feeling it out as we go. The goal is to get it open at least in the fall, during the fall, like September and October, with a volunteer base manning the tower.
It would be such a destination.
Oh, absolutely, and
so
the view
many-
up there. You know, when Friends of the Brattleboro Retreat Tower Facebook is up, we'll put a video of the drone and the view from up there. It's
That
really
would be
It's
wonderful.
really spectacular. Yeah.
Yeah, with a drone, right? It's a whole different thing now. That's great.
Yeah. But most importantly, it's the celebration of mental health services
Yes.
in our state.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
yeah.
is.
And all the work that the retreat has done
That's right.
for so many years. 1837, I think,
Yep.
is when the retreat started.
Yep.
And the tower was built in 1887 for the 50th
Yeah, I think this is
celebration.
extremely timely.
Oh,
and
yeah.
really important.
Yeah,
Jared.
me too. I think that, and of course I've got stone on the brain. All I can think of is like with the retreat tower and Robin Johnson's work with the Stone Church downtown.
Yeah, right, that's right.
And David Heiler with Whetstone Station.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, you know what? And we have the Stone Trust, you know, like
Yeah.
like we have a little stone community and people love rocks. You
Yeah,
know,
they
so-
do. They do.
So,
they do. And you did not call your business Flintstone.
I did not call my business Flintstone. I didn't. I couldn't.
Well, you could have, but yeah, it would have been risky.
It would have been a yabba do good time. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been.
Yeah.
We have to stop.
We do?
We do.
Unbelievable.
I know, it goes really fast.
That was, oh my.
I know, I didn't even get a chance to talk about how I wish I'd taken a walling class years ago, because I did a little stone wall in my backyard. I was doing a little garden, and I got it all together, and it looked pretty good. And about 10 minutes later, the cat jumped up and walked on it, and the whole thing fell apart.
Remember, firewood
I know, now I know.
and
now
Lego.
I know. Now I know.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you so much.
Wendy, yes.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Lovely,
Yeah,
yeah.
good to see you. Thanks to all of you for being with us today. That was fun. That was fun. A lot of great information. And we will see you next time on Here We Are.